Welcome to Into the Night. I'm Nari, your guide on today's excursion down a twisted path. Be careful not to get lost. Be it dark or light, it's easy to lose your way. Are you ready? Then let's begin. Hi, excursionists. As Pride Month draws to a close, I just want to say that even though the month is ending, always take pride in who you are. Celebrate love, be uniquely you, and be kind to everyone you meet. These memorial dedications have had a healing effect on me, as I have grown accustomed to the missing part of my heart that my mother left behind. I hope that those who have shared their loved ones and their stories about them have also experienced a positive effect on their lives. This is the last time I will be including a memorial dedication, but that doesn't mean you should stop sharing your memories. Share memories of loved ones passed with friends, family, or anyone you think might benefit from a story you have to share with them. The @IntoTheNightPod Twitter is always looking for a good story. And of course, as always, my DMs are always open. Remember, you don't have to go through grief alone. We all walk this life together. So even when it's darkest, remember that you are not alone. Another very good friend of mine by the name of Danny shared some memories of his grandfather, Michael Angelo Fancher. That name is quite a mouthful, so his grandchildren just called him Sugarpaw. Sugarpaw was an incredible person. In his early 40s, a car accident paralyzed him from the chest down, but that never stopped him from doing anything. He still went fishing and happily homeschooled his children. He also continued to drive. He simply pulled himself into the car, swung the wheelchair around the door into the back seat, and took off. Sugarpaw was always smiling and never complained. Most importantly, he loved Danny for exactly who he is. Danny was given a Santa music box when he was 5 by Sugarpaw, and that started him collecting Santas from that day forward. His collection has grown to be more than 100 Santas today. Even in his late 50s, Danny does not consider himself a grown-up. He still wants to be just like Sugarpaw when he finally reaches grown-up status. This man gave Danny his physical and mental strength to deal with any situation that comes his way. Danny has a message for his grandfather. He says, "My hat's off to you, Sugarpaw." Danny told me of the strength he got from his grandfather. In my experience, he also got this man's will and determination. What Danny doesn't say is that he is fully blind. When I met him, if he had not had his service dog, I would never have known. Danny speaks so highly of his grandfather that I know in my heart it is the memory of his Sugarpaw that keeps him going even on the roughest of days. Memories can be an infinite source of strength. Now for our final moments of memories together. Let's take a quiet moment and remember. Any and all loved ones lost to the COVID-19 pandemic. Any and all loved ones lost to any kind of violence. Danny's grandfather, Michael Angelo Fancher, a.k.a. Sugarpaw. Jen Geringer Webb's grandma and grandpa, Jackie and Mickey Mullen. David Webb's grandmother and Jen's mother, Anna Geringer. Cthulhu Rob's loved ones, Shirley Silva and Sheldon Miles Herman. Dungeons and Doofus's father, James, sister Noelle, and father-in-law, Randy. Have Dice Will Travel's mother, Janice McCrae. Our author, Caroline Giammanco's mother, Charlotte Hageman, brother, Luke Hageman, sister, Roberta Hageman, and father, Andrew Hageman. And finally, my mother, Nancy. The Lighthouse. It seems barbaric to exile someone to a desolate land. Granted, traditional prison bars don't surround penal colonies, but the exiled are trapped nonetheless. Stripped of their identities, no longer members of society, they lose more than their freedom. Many who are exiled lose their will to live and commit suicide rather than exist as a solitary person. Others lose all that's good in them. With no one to be good for, they spiral downward until all that's left is pure evil. That happens too often. However, that did not happen to inmate number 765-2590, previously known as Percy Lansdowne. He was one of those rare individuals who maintained his sense of self. He knew he deserved punishment. His crimes were many, and he didn't expect society to simply wipe his slate clean. When sentenced, Percy winced in pain, however, as he heard the words, "You will hereby be sentenced to life imprisonment on Penal Colony 524. Percy was a sociable man, and he knew 524 was solitary confinement. He would never again see another soul. The loneliness he'd endure was worse than if he'd been sent to a standard prison. At least there, he'd have someone to talk to. Hell, maybe even someone to be friends with. He'd never again hear another person's laughter, nor see the twinkle in another's eye. He'd never again wipe away someone else's tears, or have someone to do the same for him. For the first 2 years, the isolation nearly drove him insane. The days and nights filled with his lamenting screams. He begged God to allow him to die in his sleep, but the morning sun always rose again. One day, while looking at his reflection in the pool of water near the cabin he was provided, a realization struck him. This is all I have. All I will ever have. He looked around him. Deep forest surrounded him on 3 sides. On the remaining side, a vast ocean foaming and crashing upon the rocks reminded him daily of the folly in attempted escapes. Sure death would befall anyone who ventured onto those rocks and into the crashing waves. He looked back at his reflection. If this is all I have, I need to make the most of it. I need to do what I can to give my life meaning. But what? What indeed? The next several days, he spent organizing his living space. He'd let the place pile up with debris of all sorts back when he thought it didn't matter. Now it mattered. It had to matter, or Percy was admitting that he no longer mattered. Within a month, he expanded his efforts. The cabin and surrounding area were immaculate, pristine and picturesque. It would have made a lovely park. Standing in the yard, he admired his handiwork. In another time and circumstance, tourists would pay top price to stay in accommodations as fine as these, especially with a view like this. An emotion he'd lacked for far longer than he'd been imprisoned came over his heart. Satisfaction. I can't remember the last time I felt satisfied. Isn't that why I committed my crimes in the first place? I looked for something to fill the void, to leave me satisfied. The irony of losing everything in order to finally be satisfied did not escape Percy. However, as time passed, he lost the sense that he'd completed something worthwhile. He was no longer content simply maintaining the improvements he'd made to his living area. There has to be more. On a particularly stormy night, the crashing waves kept him awake and left him with nothing but his thoughts. Those rocks would rip someone to shreds. A ship wouldn't have a chance on a night like this. Except for my little cabin, there are no lights to warn travelers of the danger. In the pitch black, it would be certain death to come near this shore. At first, he dismissed the idea. That's a moot point. Seldom, if ever, would a ship come near this place. The court sent me here because it's so isolated. However, it wasn't impossible for a ship to come this way. It could happen. What if... What if I could do something to help someone besides myself? What if I did something that could help others, even if no one ever actually came by here? If there's even the slimmest of chances I could be of service to others, that would truly make my existence here meaningful. Percy knew what he needed to do. It wouldn't be easy, and it would take years. But he knew he must build a lighthouse. All I have is time. I can be patient. He began by gathering stones. When the low tide occurred, he rushed to collect as many as he could before the waters raced back to the shore. He chopped down trees and slowly cut planks from the wood. Years passed as he gradually built his labor of love. Up, 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 his lighthouse grew from the rocky shore. It took a while, but he conceived of a way to bring light to its cabin. By combining fire and minerals he dug from the clay in the forest floor, he happened upon the perfect formula. On the night of its completion, Percy struck a match and lit the lantern containing a wick and the precious materials. He smiled in wonderment as bright greens, yellows, and reds lit up the beacon. Every night, Percy manned his lighthouse, warning fellow celestial travelers of the dangers along the rocky shore. For those of us who long ago were left in other areas of Penal Colony 524, we and our descendants on nights when the air is crisp and clear can also marvel at the glory of Percy's lighthouse. We call that glory the Northern Lights. Thank you for joining me for Into the Night, an anthology series written by Caroline Giammanco, narrated and produced by Nari, with music created by Alex Sexton. Theme music by Nico Rodriguez. Our links are in the show notes. Into the Night is available on your favorite podcast directory, so be sure to subscribe and follow so you never miss an episode. We would really appreciate a 5-star review, as it helps new excursionists to find and join us. Feel free to share with someone you want to bring along on our next excursion. I'd love to hear from you on Twitter at Into the Night Pod or by email at itnanthology@gmail.com. I'll see you next time. And remember, whether in the shadows or in the daylight, all twisted paths lead you into the night. Hello, excursionists. I just want to take a moment and thank all of my listeners for another wonderful season. We topped 2,000 downloads, and we are still going strong. That is all thanks to you. I'm going to be taking a short break, but Into the Night will return on August 5th, 2021. I'll be waiting on that twisted path for each and every one of you. Until then, share our excursions with a friend. I hope to meet some new people when the season begins. Also, I have been hanging out on the Cast Junkie Discord server with a lot of other great creators. I even have a channel there. I'll leave a link in the description, and when you join, come find me under the podcast heading under Into the Night. During the hiatus, I will still be active on all my socials, and I hope to hear from each and every one of you.